You see a stock going up and the numbers are green, everybody online is talking about it, so naturally, you start thinking about buying it. There's just one problem. You have absolutely no idea what you're buying. What's up guys, my name is Spartan, and in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the exact process that I use to research individual stocks before deciding whether I would consider adding them to my portfolio or not. And to make this super practical so that you can follow what I'm doing literally today, we're going to use Apple as our example and work through the process together step by step. Now, just to be clear, the goal of this video is not to tell you whether Apple's a good or bad investment. I'm just using Apple because most people already understand the basic business, so that way we can focus on learning how the actual research works. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that I want to understand when I'm researching a stock is really pretty simple. How does this company actually make money? A stock is not just a ticker symbol that's moving around on your screen. When you buy a stock, you're actually buying small ownership interest in an actual business. So before looking at financial ratios, stock charts, or analyst predictions, I want to know things like, what does the company sell? Where does its revenue come from? Why do customers choose this company? And what could potentially threaten the business? Let's talk about Apple. Most people would probably say that Apple makes most of their money by selling iPhones. And yes, obviously the iPhone is a massive part of their business, but Apple also generates revenue from Macs, iPads, wearables and accessories, and service businesses. So instead of just saying Apple sells iPhones, I'm going to look at the actual revenue breakdown. So for Apple's 2025 fiscal year, the iPhone generated about $210 billion in net sales. The entire company generated about $416 billion. So right away, we've learned something. Roughly half of Apple's total net sales come from the iPhone. Now I have another question. How comfortable am I with that level of dependence on one single product category? Then I continue to research. Apple's services business generated about $109 billion in net sales during that same fiscal year, up from about $96 billion the year before. So now I have another piece of the puzzle. The iPhone is still extremely important, but services have also become a massive part of the business. And if you don't know what services mean, you can basically think of them like subscriptions. This is what I mean when I say that research should lead to more questions. I start with how does Apple make money, and then that led to how dependent is Apple on the iPhone, and then how important is services becoming to the overall business. Now we're actually learning more about the company. So here is a very simple test. Try to explain how the company makes money in 1 or 2 sentences. If you can't explain what the company does and where the money comes from, I would probably keep researching before putting money into that particular stock. And by the way, this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only and should not be confused for financial advice. Always do your own research, and please don't sue me. One of the biggest mistakes that beginners make is confusing recognizing a company with understanding a company. Knowing what a company sells and actually understanding the business behind it are not the same thing. Once I understand the business, I then move on to the numbers. The next thing that I really want to know is whether the company's actually making money and how the business has actually performed over the course of time. For beginners, I would start with revenue and profit. Revenue is basically the money that the business generates by selling its products and services before expenses are deducted. Profit is generally what remains after the expenses, depending on the specific profit measure that you're looking at. But I don't want to look at one random number, I want to see a trend. In the fiscal year 2023, Apple generated about $383 billion in net sales. In 2024, about $391 billion. And in 2025, about $416 billion. Now we have some context. Revenue declined in 2023 compared with the previous year, increased modestly in 2024, and then increased pretty strongly in 2025. So the next question is, what happened to the profit? Apple reported net income of about $97 billion in fiscal year 2023, $94 billion in 2024, and $112 billion in 2025. Again, we have a trend. Revenue and net income both finished significantly higher in 2025 than they were in the previous 2 years. But we're still not done here. Why did that happen? Which parts of the business drove the growth? Were there unusual events affecting the results? Are these trends something that I think could continue in the future? This is the process. Find the information, compare it over time, interpret what actually changed, and then ask the next question. And I'm not pulling these numbers from some random account on social media. I'm looking at Apple's actual annual report. One of the first places that I like to check is the company's investor relations website. You can also use the SEC's EDGAR database to find filings like the company's annual 10K and quarterly 10Q reports. Now I know, reading the SEC filing probably sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry while somebody's explaining tax laws in the background. But you don't need to read every page from beginning to end. You're just learning where to find reliable information about the business. And that is significantly better than buying the stock because somebody made a 30-second video saying that it's about to blow up, it's gonna go to the moon. And really quickly, my mission for this YouTube channel is to simplify personal finance and investing so that you can live your life instead of stressing about it. So if you're finding this helpful and if you want some more beginner-friendly finance and investing content without all of the unnecessary noise, do me a favor and consider subscribing to the channel. Now, let's keep going. Once I understand the business and its performance, I want to investigate the company's financial health. And this is where we could turn the video into Accounting 101, but we're not going to do that. For a beginner, I would start with three main things: cash, debt, and cash flow. At the end of 2025's fiscal year, Apple reported about $36 billion in cash and cash equivalents. The company also held about $96 billion in marketable securities between current and non-current assets. Then take a look at the debt. Apple reported roughly $99 billion in total term debt. Now imagine that I only looked at that number. $99 billion in debt, now that sounds literally insane. Pack it up, research is over. Except I would completely ignore the rest of the financial picture. During 2025, Apple generated about $111 billion in cash from operating activities. Now the debt number has context. That does not automatically mean that the debt is good or doesn't matter. It means that I have information to figure out whether Apple can comfortably handle that debt. So when I research financial health, I'm asking how much cash and other liquid resources does the company have? How much debt? Is the business generating cash? And what do those numbers all mean together? I'm not searching for one magic number or one magic ratio. I'm trying to understand the overall situation. And that brings us up to one of the most important parts of stock research: valuation. You can research an amazing company. It can make great products. Revenue can be growing. The business can be profitable. And you can still decide you don't want to buy the stock. Why is that? Because a good company and a good investment at a particular price are not automatically the same thing. When you buy a stock, you're not just deciding whether you like the company, you're also deciding whether you want to own part of that company at the price that the market is asking you to pay. One common valuation metric that beginners would probably run into is a PE ratio. PE stands for price to earnings ratio. The simple way to kind of explain this is that it compares the company's stock price with its earnings per share. But here's the trap. A low PE ratio does not automatically mean that the stock is cheap and amazing, and a high PE ratio does not automatically mean that the stock is overpriced and trash. Different businesses grow at different rates and operate in different industries and have different expectations for the future. So when I look at Apple's PE ratio, the number itself does not really tell me whether or not I should buy the stock. It gives me another question to investigate. How does Apple's current valuation compare with its history? How does it compare with relevant companies? And how much future growth might investors already be expecting at this particular price? But the process stays the same. Find the valuation, compare it, understand the context, and ask the next question. You can love the company, the products, and the financials, and still decide that the price doesn't make any sense for you. Researching the company and deciding whether you would consider buying the stock are two different things. Also, if you've been wondering where all this gameplay footage comes from, I stream over on Twitch. Check the link in the description and please follow me on Twitch. Thank you very much. Now back to the video. At this point, I understand the business, the financial performance, the financial health, and the valuation. Now I want to figure out why I could be wrong. Because sometimes people don't actually research a stock. They research reasons to agree with the decision that they've already made. They want to buy Apple, so they search why Apple stock is a good investment. Then they read 10 articles explaining why Apple is so amazing. And congratulations, you have successfully confirmed your own bias. That is not the same thing as researching the actual investment. I want to actively look for risks, and one of the best places to start is the risk factors section of the company's annual report. Let's look at a few examples. First and foremost is competition. Apple operates in a highly competitive market. And why does that matter? because Apple has to continue to give customers reasons to choose its products and services instead of alternatives. So I might investigate what advantages Apple has that could help the company continue competing over time. Second is global supply chains. Apple depends on manufacturing and logistics networks all around the world. Disruptions involving suppliers, transportation, geopolitics, or trade restrictions could affect the company. So I would investigate how exposed the business is and what Apple is doing to manage that exposure. And third, regulation. Changes involving competition, digital markets, privacy, taxes, and other regulations could affect how Apple operates and makes their money. So I would investigate whether there are regulatory issues that could materially affect the business and notice the process, risk, why it matters. Next question. Here's a practical exercise. After researching a company, try to explain 3 reasons the investment could perform poorly. Not 3 reasons that you love the company, but 3 reasons that you could be wrong. If you can't come up with anything, I would seriously question whether you researched both sides of the equation. Research is not just about confirming your own opinion or bias, it's actually about challenging your opinion. The next step is comparison, because Apple does not exist in a magical investing vacuum where it's the only place that you put money. How does the company compare with relevant competitors? How do their financials and valuations compare? Does Apple have advantages that I think are difficult for competitors to replicate? And then there's an even bigger question. Do I actually want to own an individual company? Because after everything that we've discussed, you might be thinking, Spartan, this sounds like a lot of work just to buy one stock. And yeah, it definitely can feel like that. Which brings us into something a little bit different, which is known as ETFs. Let's compare Apple with the ticker symbol VOO. Apple is an individual company, so my research focuses on things like, how does Apple make money? How are the financials performing? What valuation am I going to pay? And what specific risks could affect the business? VOO is different. VOO is Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF. It's designed to track the performance of the S&P 500 index, giving investors exposure to roughly 500 large US companies through one single fund. So basically, if you buy an ETF or an index fund, what this basically does is allows you to own several different companies depending on what fund that you're investing in versus just one singular stock. So the research process changes because we're not just looking at one stock anymore. What index does the fund track? What companies does it hold? How diversified is it? How many different sectors does it cover, etc.? What does the fund cost? And what risks come with the investment? The simple comparison is this. Apple, one company, company-specific financials, valuation, and risks. VOO, roughly 500 large US companies. Index methodology, fund holdings, expense ratios, diversification, and market risks. But the point is not whether you should buy Apple or VOO. The simple point is that researching an individual stock and researching an ETF are not the same process. Buying an ETF also doesn't mean that you get to turn your brain off and just start clicking random buttons. You still need to understand what you own, and it's simply just a difference of type of research. So let's kind of put everything that we've talked about in this video together. If I'm researching an individual stock, here's the basic process that I like to use. Number 1, understand the business. How does the company make money? Number 2, check the performance. What are the revenue and profit over the course of time? Number 3, check the financial health. Look at cash, debt, and cash generation. Number 4, consider valuation. What am I being asked to pay for ownership in the company? And number 5, identify the risks. What could go wrong? Number 6, compare the alternatives. How does the company compare with other investment options? And number 7, decide whether I actually understand the investment or not. If I can't explain the business, the financial performance, the valuation, and the risks, I continue to research. And here's my challenge for you. Pick one publicly traded company that you're interested in, not necessarily because you want to buy it, just pick a company and work through the checklist yourself. The goal is not to immediately invest, the goal is to practice the process, because that is how you get better at researching investments. So the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this entire video is that researching a stock is not about finding one magic number that tells you whether you should buy or not. You're building a picture of the business, the financials, the valuation, and the risks so that you can make a more informed decision about what you're considering owning. You still cannot eliminate risk or predict exactly what the stock will do next. That's not the goal. The goal is just to understand what you own before you put your money into it. And if you're sitting there thinking, Spartan, researching individual companies seems like a lot of work, that's exactly why I think it would be a good idea to not just look at individual stocks. Look at things like index funds, ETFs, mutual funds. There are a lot of different investment types, and because those terms get thrown around so consistently, they're not all the same thing. And understanding the differences can definitely make investing significantly easier to understand. So if you would like to see a video kind of talking about the differences between some of those different types of funds or investments, let me know down in the comments section below. And if you want to see more beginner-friendly personal finance and investing content that makes this stuff easier to understand, do me a favor and consider subscribing to this channel. And with that, that is going to conclude the content of today's video, but thank you so much for watching, and like always, I will see you guys later.